So at 14 years old, I was on a little bit of a break from training martial arts, but I had a friend at my middle school that was training kickboxing, and the gym was right next to where I went to middle school. So there was one day at our middle school, we had an event. I believe it was like a Veterans Day program, and me and my friend, we had already graduated from the middle school. We kind of just came back for the event, but we got bored after being there for a while, so we ended up going to where the kickboxing gym is, or looking for it. I told him, I said, hey, I heard there's a kickboxing gym around here, let's check it out. I finally found it. It was on Grace Lane and Baker Street, behind this drive-through liquor market. So I went there, and when I went inside, this space was massive. It used to be a paint factory. It was an insanely huge space. I went in there, I met one of the owners, Gina Sahagun. She showed us around, and the next week I came back there with my dad to start training. So a little bit of background on that gym, it's called South Coast Martial Arts. My dad used to call it martial arts heaven. It was a beautiful spot for the martial arts community because it was one gym where people from so many different martial arts backgrounds came to train their respective arts. And that made a really big impression to me. I was exposed to a lot. The gym was owned by Gina and Joaquin Sahagun. They were martial artists and kickboxers as well. Joaquin was also a high-level Kempo karate practitioner. He comes from a straight line from Ed Parker. He learned from Bob White. But the unique thing about this gym was how many different programs they had going on. They had a cardio kickboxing program in the middle, in the center of a gym. It had 40 bags, excellent bags for kickboxing. There was a ring and an area that was more specifically catered towards boxing. So there was professional boxers there, amateur boxers there that were training. Right when you walk in the gym, sort of to the left side, there was a jiu-jitsu school. Joe Moreira had a jiu-jitsu school there, and then his student, Legacy, ended up teaching there as well. There was puzzle mats, these blue puzzle mats with like a red outline of red puzzle mats, and that went all the way down. It was a big space, and that's where they had their wushu program. They had a Kempo program where they taught Kempo, and there was even a Polynesian dance school that was within that. You could hear music from the Polynesian dance group, which kind of would pump you up. You'd hear the drums and everything. There's people training hard in the cardio kickboxing class. There's boxers sparring in the ring. There's jiu-jitsu guys rolling. And there was another small space with wrestling mats. There was a program for kids where this guy, Joey, shout out to you, Joey, he would teach MMA for the kids there. So there was just so much going on. I met a lot of people at that gym. A lot of pretty big names, I would say, in the martial arts world. Gina and Joaquin have a son named Philip Sahagun, and Philip is a very skilled martial artist. Philip had boxing and kickboxing training. I believe he competed too. He ended up really dedicating himself to Kung Fu. He had gone to China. He spoke fluent Chinese. He knew the monks at Shaolin Temple. He still has trips where he invites people out to come with him. They go to Shaolin Temple, they train. He's really good at weapons. He was known for the bullwhip. He was incredible at the bullwhip. Just an incredible martial artist, and really had the attitude, the spirit, and the mindset of a martial arts master. He trained his students very hard. He used to do these summer camps that were open to the public, and he would invite Shaolin monks and Kung Fu masters to come teach, MMA guys, BJJ guys. If you went and you trained there, you were exposed to a bunch of martial arts. I didn't ever went to the camp, but I had heard from friends that in that camp, Philip would push you a lot. You would go to the track at Orange Coast College, and you would do drop stance for a mile, those wushu drop stances, and it's pretty intense. That type of training really breeds warriors. Philip was there, and obviously he had a major influence on the gym, and now, today, he has his own gym called K-Star in Las Vegas. And Gina and Joaquin, they live in Vegas now too. I was fortunately able to visit Philip, Gina, and Joaquin in Las Vegas and train at the K-Star Academy. It was a really fun trip. I really loved how Philip designed his classes, his curriculum. The training space was really incredible. So I'm very fortunate to have trained there. I'm happy to see that Philip's vision came into fruition. I remember when we were packing up and getting ready to move out of South Coast Martial Arts, I asked Philip what his plans were, and he told me that he was gonna work for Cirque du Soleil and he was gonna open up his own academy. So as far as my experience at that gym, I had trained boxing, kickboxing, and some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I ended up meeting a Cambodian guy named Thourn Heng. He had this boxing class that he would run on Thursday nights. I was doing a back kick and Thourn was trying to correct me. He came from a Taekwondo background, so he saw my kicks and he was giving me some pointers. My dad talked to him more. He said he was teaching boxing and my dad always wanted to learn boxing. So me and my dad started training boxing under Thourn. For about 2.5 years, we did boxing. He also taught us kunkumai kickboxing. Thourn taught us for free for 2.5 years out of the goodness of his heart. He's an amazing guy. Everyone knew him as Coach Thourn. I used to always watch his demo reel because he's another example of a very versatile martial artist. Excellent Taekwondo skills, competed and was just a beast. Excellent boxing skills, excellent kickboxing skills, but also was an acrobat. He had good gymnastics, he had trained wushu, he even did some ballet. He was just so versatile and so technical, really made an impact on me as a martial artist. And his style of teaching was very interesting. Coach Thourn was all about fundamentals and technique. He didn't really push us too much cardio or conditioning wise. He believed we needed to do that on our own. He just wanted us to know the basics and to master the basics. So I got extremely good at boxing basics from him, and I'm very grateful. And Thourn is family to me now. I call him my uncle. I teach kickboxing now, and I had him come to my class. I love that guy to death. I know he's watching, so I love you, Thourn. That was a really important part of my martial arts journey. But also, while I was there at South Coast Martial Arts, I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Joe Moreira's school. My coach was Legacy. I was there about 6 months and I really enjoyed it. I had the foundation in grappling from the Hapkido training that I had before in Kukso Kwan. And I was able to just really expand the grappling knowledge with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I absolutely love that. So I did that about 6 months. And Legacy now teaches in Anaheim at Spider Muay Thai. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach over there. In the boxing area, you had Raul Franco and Bobby Chavez, who were former pro boxers that are coaches. Bobby Chavez has Bobby's Boxing now in Laguna. Had another former pro boxer, this Japanese guy that everyone called Mac Miyagi because he looked like Mr. Miyagi. He really looked like Mr. Miyagi, but he would train a lot of the pro boxers at that gym. So it was really cool seeing him as well. Let's talk about another martial artist who I met at South Coast Martial Arts who has had a massive influence on me, and that is DY Sao. DY was actually originally from Cambodia and came to the US as a refugee. He grew up on the east side of Long Beach during a time where there was gang wars and a lot of racial tensions, so he had to learn how to defend himself. He was unable to afford martial arts lessons as a kid, so instead he taught himself martial arts through watching martial arts movies. His dad would even go to karate schools and just watch the class, try to memorize the movements, and then come back and try to teach them to DY. DY eventually enrolled in a wushu school. I believe it was Southern California Wushu Academy, and within a few years, he thrived and he became one of the best wushu competitors in that school. And on top of that, he was able to make the US national team. He was known for the broadsword and the bow staff. DY was always athletically inclined and his movements were incredible. At South Coast Martial Arts, when I would see him spar people, when I would see him train on his own, especially when he was training on his own, it was like he was in his own world. And I just loved watching his movement. It was pretty incredible. I had never seen someone move like that before. DY had this extensive wushu background and even competed on a show in China called K-Star. And the fascinating thing about that show is that that's where he met Philip, because Philip was also competing on it. Philip's gym now is named K-Star as well. So they met there, and then DY started teaching at South Coast Martial Arts. DY was also a good friend of my boxing coach, Thourn, because they both grew up in Long Beach together. They went to the same high school, and they were even on the same demo performance team called Flung Dung. He was an incredible martial artist. I really looked up to him in that way. Towards the end of our journey there at South Coast Martial Arts, I ended up becoming a lot closer with him, and I was his sparring partner. We were sparring partners for years, and in fact, we did a type of technical sparring that we just called like flow sparring, which is we just had MMA gloves and a mouthpiece, and we were able to do so many different martial arts techniques. I was able to really like express myself. What I learned through doing that type of sparring was that it was actually more productive than doing hard sparring, which I was used to doing in the past. This type of sparring allowed me to be a lot more creative. And on top of that, it also allowed me to try new techniques and new things that really leveled me up. And why was I so comfortable trying them? Because if I made a mistake and he countered, I knew that he wasn't going to hurt me with a strike. So since there wasn't that massive consequence, I was able to practice new martial arts techniques. So it completely leveled me up. And he even helped me get better at doing jumps and flips, because he would have us do jumps after sparring when we were exhausted and too exhausted to actually care about how much fear we have doing the jump. And we were more relaxed, so it's easier to get more air. So it was a really interesting method of training that he had, and DY has always had fascinating methods of training. Outside of being a sparring partner, I was able to train with him in a lot of different ways. I did a type of forms training with him over the years where we would get a group of people that all had different martial arts backgrounds. We would do sections of movements, kind of like in wushu, but these sections of movements would be from various martial arts because we all had a different martial art background. And then at the very end of the training session, we would put all those movements together into a form, which was just incredible training because it taught you to not only be creative, but to get out of your comfort zone and move in a different way, because you had to move in a style that you had never trained before. It was incredible training, and it was kind of a really good modality for getting better at film fighting because we were able to change shapes, change energies, change tempos on a whim by switching to different martial arts styles. So it was pretty incredible. So I did that with him, and DY has dedicated his life and his career to martial arts and martial arts action cinema. And as a result, he starred in a lot of movies. Throughout my film journey, I was able to be in a lot of his films. I was in his film Hanuman, I was in his film Bangkok Dog, and we recently did a film in Thailand that will be coming out in about a year. I've learned so much from DY. I truly consider DY to be one of my martial arts masters. He has taught me so much as a martial artist, as a film fighter, even as a person. And he's been a good mentor for me as well. I'm honored to call him my friend. We spent a lot of time together. We would go eat Korean barbecue all the time and just talk about whatever, philosophy and life. And it's really been a pleasure this whole time getting to know him and to work with him on these films. South Coast Martial Arts was also where I first met the EMC Monkeys. The EMC Monkeys, I guess you could call them a stunt team. It's more of a brotherhood, but it's a brotherhood of martial artists from different martial arts backgrounds. These guys really knew how to express themselves as martial artists, and they were truly versatile. They knew Taekwondo and boxing, and they were incredible acrobats, and they were all collectively trying to make it in the film industry, so they would do demos and performances and auditions, and a lot of them ended up going pretty far within the film industry. A lot of them still work as stuntmen. Some of them have gotten fight coordinator and stunt coordinator jobs. So they're still considered legends within that sort of martial arts stunt world. And I used to watch their videos all the time, and for the first time I had saw them at South Coast Martial Arts. when I was about 14 years old. I saw the legendary Zin Wuku, who made probably the first viral video of someone doing what we now call parkour. It wasn't even called parkour at that time, but it was called Urban Ninja. And Zin, this whole time I thought he was somewhere else in the world, but when I saw that video, he was like in Main Place Mall. You know, I live in Orange County, so he was actually close. And it was crazy that one day I'm just at the gym and I see him there along with the rest of that team. So seeing them train was really interesting. They were almost like militant the way they trained. They did conditioning. They were very well organized with how they trained. And those guys influenced me a lot, you know, when I was training martial arts and especially getting into film. One thing that's just important to understand about that gym is the amount of talent that was there, of people training different martial arts, different styles, and everyone was just so cool. You know, I remember my good friend Vinay, who has his own kickboxing school in Georgia now, and he's killing it. So I'll get into it more in the next part of the series, but a big part of my experience in South Coast martial arts was training my own students, who were some of my best friends from my high school. We had so many amazing memories there, and I really was able to experience what life was as a coach, as an instructor in the martial arts. Unfortunately, South Coast Martial Arts did close, and a lot of the members went their own ways and started their own martial arts schools, but I still keep in touch with a lot of the members there, and I am eternally grateful for my experience. I just started training my friends at my high school, and originally I was training them at my grandparents' house.